Okay, good morning, folks. Welcome to today's ad-free live stream. My name's Tyler. I'm super pumped that you're here. If you're here for the first time, welcome. So we're going to be going over what happens when you don't stream for one day, you kind of lose what you're supposed to say. Anyway, if you're here for the first time, I'm glad that you're here. During these live streams, I'm going to be pointing out live price action. I'm going to be sharing my daily trading bias and giving you real-time trades to give you a front row seat to all the action. Also, if you're watching this after the stream, you can jump to the key moments that are marked on the timeline of this video where you can see the trades that I've taken and a detailed explanation explaining what I was thinking and why. Lastly, if you're looking to take your trading to the next level, you can use the code APEX, or excuse me, the code DTJ to get an Apex account. It's either 90% or 80% off as of today. I know just recently they were doing a 90% off sale, and a bunch of you, including myself, probably jumped on that to get some of those Apex evaluation accounts. But you can use the code DTJ to get the most updated discount that they are offering. Outside of that, let's go ahead and pray and open today's session. Father, we honor you. We thank you for the opportunity we have to trade and to build wealth. Father, I just pray that you'd bless this session. Lord, that everyone here would see success with what they do with their trading. Lord, I pray that a work of our hands would bear fruit. Lord, we honor you. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, folks, let's go ahead and rock and roll. I have on the charts here already marked out we are currently past all-time highs currently. And you can see all-time highs, we're way down here. So there's our London low, our midnight open, and all-time highs are sitting right here. So we are well above that. So because we've hit all-time highs already, I really want to see a retracement. I would love to see us tag this level down here. We have this large opening range gap sitting here. We have midnight open sitting down here, London lows sitting here. We have these equal lows sitting right here. But we also are going to be having some news. Let's check out the calendar. And today we have some news. I know I feel like I've been saying this for the past week that my computer's been really sluggish, and today is exceptionally the case, unfortunately. So while this is loading, here we go. It looks like today being Wednesday, we have non-farm payroll exchange day 15. At 10 a.m. we have ISM services or PMI. And then 10:30 we have medium news with crude oil inventories. So it looks like 10 a.m. is going to be the focus as far as news events here this morning. And we're going to be cautious with that in mind. Good morning, Sandra, Richard, Tony. Good morning. Glad to have you guys. Glad you're here. I'm wearing my coat because I took my kids to school and it's kind of comfortable. It's nice and warm. So I'm wearing a coat still and a stocking cap because it's cold outside. I'm not ashamed of it. Let's take a closer look and see what's going on here in the market. As far as structure goes, we have relatively equal lows and we've had this steady incline. I'm curious if we do a standard deviation from this dip right here, if that comes out to be 2.5 or 2 standard deviations. So let's mark this low here. And let's mark that high. And here's 2 standard deviations. We've stopped right at 1.5. Here's 1. So could we see some higher prices? Typically, I like to see price hit about 2.5 standard deviations. And if I was to take this same standard deviation idea on a higher time frame, this is going to be very probably informative for some of you guys. You're going to see how much this works. Look at the 2.5 standard deviation. Yes, Benjamin?
You need the key for the...
Here you go. See you, buddy. Have a good day at school. Kids leaving. All right, so if we take a look at this manipulation leg right here, that from yesterday's price action, that dropped down into this 1 hour BISI, okay? So from the high of that swing, here, it's probably a little bit better on the 15-minute, so let's take a look at the 15-minute here. All right, so you see this price leg lower right here? You can see that, right? So we drop a standard deviation from this low to this high, okay? And then we're going to look at 2.5 standard deviations from this, what we call a manipulation leg. Now, I was expecting all-time highs to hit. I really was. I figured that's why we were headed up this way. But here, look at how this works. This is where these levels become more helpful, because what targets do we have after all-time highs? We don't. What do we target? Who knows? I mean, it's almost impossible to tell. But look at that level right there. 2.5. Literally, I'm doing this right now. I'm not doing this like I didn't prepare for this. I didn't plan on drawing these levels to ooh, oh, wow, you find these levels in advance to then go, wow, look at that. This is just how the market moves. It is freaking insane. Now, does it always happen this way? No, but at all-time highs, there are no higher targets other than standard deviations that the market uses to determine how high they're going to push price. Doesn't mean it can't go higher, but look at the reaction from that level. That to me is just insane, okay? So now looking further, I'm now looking at this as a potential breaker now that I'm seeing price do that thing. Look at this right here. Let's see if price wants to react and drop lower from that point right there. Now, I'm not taking any trades at the moment because it's right before news, or excuse me, we have news today and market has not quite opened yet. But if we get manipulation lower here, that would give me more confidence that a price is going to move lower. But look at that move. That's a beautiful, beautiful entry. Anyway, so that's just some insight on using standard deviations. Really helpful to just kind of give you that extra level of confidence that price may be looking to change directions. Just buy and close your eyes. I wish it was that easy. I was talking to my son yesterday. He's 13 years old. And he's like, Dad, can you teach me to trade? I'm like, sure. It's probably going to take you 2 years. Are you ready to commit to 2 years of trading? He's like, what do you mean? All you do is click a button and it goes up and you sell it. I did laugh. I'm like, buddy, there's a lot that you don't know that I just need to teach you. It was slightly comical. I'm not gonna lie. All right, so I'm here. Another thing that I'm doing, just slightly different on the charts, is I'm tired of always seeing yellow. So I'm shrinking my opening range gap so it's not covering my entire chart, but just a small, tall rectangle in price. So right now, this is kind of where price is sitting right here. And I'm just going to shrink it up because I'm getting tired of seeing all of these levels. So this every level here is 10 handles. So this, don't be deceived. This is a lot of movement in price right now. We grab this low. I'm still watching this breaker here to see if it wants to come back up, find resistance here, and then do a continuation down. We could also find it at this level here, especially when we have these two order blocks, or this order block sitting right here. So we'll watch price, see how that wants to react. Alkai, good morning. Felipe, good morning. I pray that your guys' day is going well. Tatiana, hi, welcome. When you're at all-time highs, Felipe, really your best bet is a bullish move. If you're going to play a bearish reaction, which I tend to lean towards, you just got to be very careful. And pal, Tony, is talking today. You're correct. So we're going to see if we can get an opportunity, but it's pretty clear we're having some type of reaction here. And I'll be looking at my 930 model here. Hindsight's 2020, right? Look at that breaker that we just pointed out while it was doing it, and that would have been a nice 20 handle trade. 20 handle trade from that point. Nice little reaction there. Market opens in 3 minutes. All right, we created equal lows here. I'm just noting some of these levels here. And then I have this 5-minute fair value gap that's sitting right beneath it, and we did not touch that yet. So the 5-minute has not been tagged yet. Oh my gosh. It's really bothering me how choppy this is. My computer screen. Everything is just sluggish. I take that back. The 5-minute was tagged once before. It was tagged over at 8:30. Nice reaction right there. Ugh, this choppiness is really gonna mess with me. small inversion model that just got denied, or not denied. It worked out, but it already ran the high. So disregarding that and looking for a further push down is really what I'd be looking for. Towards those equal lows. There's a nice tag there. Oh my gosh, folks, this is really bothering me. All right, we're going to close this as that's done. Folks, let me know if you're able to see everything and it's coming across on your end. It says it's excellent condition, but everything looks really delayed and choppy. Internet looks fine. Quite frankly, I might even take trades off of my phone because I'm not liking the way this is looking. $400 good plays, but let's see, Tony, I'm writing the breaker. So we swept these equal lows. We got to be really careful at this level. I really want to see lower prices, and I think we're going to get some of that. But with all-time highs, literally it just pumping higher is a real possibility. I don't see any clear. Let's look at the 2-minute here. 2, 3, 4. There's really nothing here that I see. Not even on the 30-second here. All of the fair value gaps have been closed. We just tagged this order block again. Looks really nice for a push lower here. On the 1 minute, since we've had our opening price, we haven't seen any clear fair value gaps, so we're still just waiting for price to give us a clear fair value gap here. 9:30 price, let's mark that out. I wish there was a clear, obvious entry for this potential drop right here. Besides hitting the breaker, that would have been your only opportunity, is getting in at these, this breaker. All right, so it looks like we have our first fair value gap sitting right here. We're going to mark that out. First opportunity for displacement. So next key level to the downside, unless we see large displacement, I think we continue lower. Unless we see displacement higher, I think we will continue to make our way lower. I'm looking at midnight open in the London lows down here as areas. So if I'm looking for an opportunity, I would like to see a manipulation here, staying underneath some of these swing highs, maybe grabbing this swing high, but leaving this one, giving us an inversion fair value gap to the downside, and overlapping with potentially this low right here. I like this fair value gap on the left hand side, and you can see all these wicks were kind of moving into that level. So that's kind of what I would be looking for. Yeah, last two candles, Sandra did respect that first fair value gap sitting right here. I mean, this could even be an inversion to this swing high right here that could be played. It's not bad, but I'd really want to see displacement. Yeah, Pete, I need to change that. It just changed here like yesterday or so. Thanks for pointing that out. Don't forget, we got news at 10 o'clock. Trying to get my micro screen fixed. It's not showing micros right now. So Mr. Hank, how you doing, my friend? Glad to have you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Yeah, 4 hour is kind of what I'm waiting on, and news at 10 o'clock. There's a 4 hour right there. Do like this 1 minute for a nice quick scalp potentially to this little swing high right here. I'm not going to take it simply because we got news here in a little bit. But that's a nice little signature. We swept liquidity here. We have equal lows down here. We'll see how it wants to react. I'm just not going to take it prior to news. I do like if the 4 hour closes, it would be nice to see that come down into this fair value gap at least, or to target something that moves lower into this fair value gap. Whether it wants to find support there and move higher or just blow right through it, I guess both are potentially an option. Okay, so that inversion failed right there. Glad we didn't take that prior to news. I did. I saw that breaker prior to the market open. I saw this one right here, and I really liked it. But I decided not to take it. Is this where you, Hank, is this where you took your trade right here? right at 923-ish, because that's where I would have done it right there. I mean, I called it out, I just didn't take it. It's really nice to get your first trade a win, to have a one and done. You know what that reminds me of? I think it was you, Sandra, or was it Deborah, that asked about the 3-trade challenge of not taking more than 3 trades in a single day. And I mentioned that we were going to do that this week. So we're gonna re-implement that for this week. Is that we're gonna focus on only less than 3 trades. And for you, for other traders that are on the stream, this is a great challenge to take because it requires you to pick the best of the best type setups, right? So you look at this inversion. That got, based on my rules, was violated, but then now it's pushing up potentially to the swing high. I wouldn't be taking this. I wouldn't want to mess around with this at all. Choosing the best of the best type setups is required, especially when you limit yourself to less than 3 trades. Five-minute order block, 20 right there. Got it. Also, you got in right on the creation of that. Honestly, what made me start looking at this, Hank, was when I pulled the standard deviation and 2.5 from the manipulation leg down from that 1 hour SIBI right there. When I pulled that and I looked at 2.5 standard deviation, I pulled that across. I was like, that is amazingly accurate. I'm like, that looks beautiful. And that's when I started looking at the breaker. Oh, I know. It's freaking amazing. It's amazing. I remember the first time that I watched ICT. I remember the date. Because that's how significant it was as for my trading journey. It was April 15th, 2023. That's when I came across this stuff, and I'm just like, this is insane. This is insane. Got 10 minutes till open, folks. We're not going to probably be taking a trade prior to that. I mean, if you just look at how jumbled and how congested this is, I don't want anything to do with that. I thought maybe here, when we swept these, that we might see a continuation lower. And we did. We had a little bit of a order block placed right here, but outside of that, it's been not pretty clean. Okay, I mentioned taking a look at these series of down close candles right here, because on the 30-second, I really liked how I like this fair value gap and this swing low, and so far it's been respecting that. I said this low right here. I think that was the level here. That's that so far. We'll see if it wants to continue to stay underneath there. But right now, folks, I'm not marking these levels so that we can take a trade. I'm marking these levels to read order flow. I'm marking these levels so that I can become more familiar with how price is moving, because over time, as you do this over and over and over again, it starts building confidence that you are reading price action correctly. And there's times that I read it and I'm like, oh yeah, this looks good. And then I go back and go like, oh man, I wish I took a trade. That's just part of the learning experience. And over time, you get better at it. Hank, frankly, I agree with you. I mentioned in a Discord that I think we would have some choppy price action. The only potential areas of interest, I think, would be the midpoint of the opening range gap or the London lows or midnight open. Maybe we could retest all-time highs, retest these lows, the all-time previous day high. But yeah, I think for the most part, even ICT mentioned in a tweet that he thinks the rest of the week could be relatively unpredictable. So the bullish breaker I see you referring to would be, I'm assuming you're referring to the 933 candle. It's not terrible at all, especially because we had these equal lows here. The only thing I don't like is when I look to the left of the breaker, I typically like to see a fair value gap. There is one right here. There's a small 1 minute fair value gap that's overlapping with this high. So if we got displacement through here and come back down and retest this, that might be a trade idea worth considering. But it would have to be after 10 o'clock. And if it goes without you, I guess it just goes without you. But for me, I want something that's obvious. I mean, I'm kind of kicking myself in the foot calling this out and not taking it, because look how clear it was. Look how clean this was. It has everything that I want in a trade. We have a high, low, higher high. The high overlaps with a key, we'll call it a key level, because it was basically a standard deviation, 2.5 standard deviations from the manipulation leg lower that hit the 1 hour fair value gap. We have a clean displacement lower. We have a market structure shift here. And like Hank said, it gave a 5-minute change in state of delivery, which I prefer as well. And then we wick back up into a down closed candle that's overlapping with a fair value gap on the left and on the right. That's everything that I want. And this candle here didn't even grab the lows. To me, this is what I want to see to give me the confidence to take a trade. And if I'm looking really, really, really hard to try to find something to take a trade based off of, you're going to find what you're looking for. It just may not work out, right? You've heard the saying where people say, if you look hard enough, you're going to find what you're looking for. Or if you look hard enough, whether it's there or not, your mind creates patterns and wants to find it. So if you're looking for a breaker because you have to take a trade, you'll find yourself looking for these patterns over and over and over, and you'll find the breaker, but it's a lower quality breaker. I'm a fan of the 5-minute order block as well. I've seen it fail a couple times. If you were to add, because I haven't made the only trade idea that I've made off of the 5-minute order block is that's my confirmation for a change in state of delivery, and then I look for a breaker. Do you strictly go off of the close of the 5-minute candle that creates the order block? Like, are you just, hey, there's a 5-minute change in state of delivery. We also hit a key level. I'm going short right here, targeting the obvious equal lows. And for those of you that are on here, Hank and I are Twitter buddies or X buddies on X. If you don't follow him on X, you should follow him. All right, so look at this. Here's another breaker, a sweep of this high. Look how these bodies closed. I like how this looks. I like this displacement right here. As long as we see a continuation after news, I do like the way this high, low, higher high, the breaker, we displaced, we grab liquidity here. These two candles wicked up into this breaker and the bodies closed below this high, and we see displacement. I'm liking the signatures and price so far. If I'm looking to the downside, there's not a single fair value gap that I could play an inversion off of. There's not a single inversion fair value gap. The only level that is of significance is there's our first fair value gap in price action for the morning. So that makes things a little more difficult. And we got 10 o'clock here in about 15 seconds. Yes, if highs or lows have been swept, I like the 5-minute order block for the change in state of delivery. Especially when there's relatively equal highs or lows. Yeah, I gotcha. All right, so here's our news candle. Let's see if the news gives us a continuation from the analysis of it being a breaker with the sweep of liquidity up there. Do you do it based off the 15-minute as well, Hank? I think the 15-minute is, I think, a little bit harder because there's so much time between candles on the 15-minute. Equal lows here. Just, there's not very clear targets. Let's see if a retest of this order block, a close of this candle, see if it wants to come into this fair value gap. If it doesn't come into this fair value gap, it tells me it's heavier and we may see a bigger move, but I would like a little institutional order flow entry drill into this level here, respecting that first fair value gap. Yep, I totally get it, Hank. News candle tapped into the 1-minute fair value gap on the breaker. All right, so we're reaching up into that fair value gap. It removed this fair value gap in here. After the news, it removed this fair value gap. The thing I don't like about this is when we got candles removing potential fair value gaps, It means overlapping price action. And when we have overlapping price action, that means high resistance liquidity, meaning we could see more chop. That's basically what I'm saying. It's kind of disappointing, unfortunately. This little candle right here, we wouldn't have taken that because this was the news candle. New day opening gap. Ted, yes, right down here. I got that new day opening gap marked sitting around 21,324. That's below the London lows. So I would say if we're going to see lower price action or more bearish price action, I would say London lows would be my target. The only obvious thing so far since we've been waiting for news was this little breaker right here, but it was right before news, and I'm not going to mess around with that. 21,305, Ted. Ooh, that's a ways down there. Yeah, that's the low of the day. That's the current low of day, I believe. Yeah, that's low of day. That would be quite the move. The only thing here is I've talked about this before with people, is that when you have is that we've already broken the previous day high. So there's a 77% chance that we break only one of the previous day highs or lows, and we ran that. So if we want to run lower, we could, and it could potentially, theoretically, run all the way close to this level down here. It's just so far away. That's 21,134. That's 300 handles. That's really far, especially when it's clearly a higher time frame bullish narrative. You know, honestly, at this point, we got low resistance liquidity here, 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 and here. If I was to put together a narrative that I personally would want to see right now, I think I would want to see a sweep of the highs again and see it not displace higher, but just like a wick style, and then potentially look for a run towards these low resistance liquidity levels that are sitting right here. I think that would be the most obvious narrative because everybody thinks we're going to go higher. Everybody wants to catch that all-time high push higher because of the momentum style traders are out there. And just it sweeping that level and then crashing would be something of interest. But with this displacement, we are getting some displacement here. We just closed above this last 1 minute fair value gap. It wouldn't surprise me if we run these highs right now. That's what I would want to see. The 1 hour didn't create the OB. Here, let's see here. No, it did not. That's a good analysis there. The 4 hour did close wiki, so we could look at the midpoint of this wick as a potential area of resistance. That's relatively around this area right here that we're seeing right now. So this inversion fair value gap right here, really small. I wouldn't have taken it. It hasn't failed yet, but it looks like it could be. The main reason why I wouldn't have taken it is we never grab liquidity on the downside. Yes, there's this tiny little wick here. That's a nice reaction right here. With this reaction, that would give me more confidence in this trade idea that I didn't take, I should say, right here. There it is. There's your target. Five-minute fair value gap that you're talking about, Kane, the 920 candle. Yeah, it looks like we got about a minute left to see if it wants to close. ES does look like for those of you interested, here's ES right now. ES failed to make a higher high. So did NQ. Let's look at here. Oh man, yeah, there you go. Here's the 1 minute of ES right now. We just swept a ton of equal lows on ES right there at 10 a.m. and then now it's consolidating. Nice. All right, so now that we hit all-time highs, I want to watch this candle here or the next few candles to see what kind of wick does it leave me. Does it leave me a large wick? Does it close green? Does it close red? Those are all the things that I want to look at. No, you're not interrupting at all. I appreciate it, Hank. And if I really want to cover it up, I just switch tabs so I'm staying focused. I mean, I'm being very careful right now on if I'm going to take anything or not. The 30-second has a little inversion right here, but I would want to see displacement to run this really quickly. But right now it's purely bullish. Purely bullish, I should say. My window's closing for an opportunity in this macro, to be honest. It's closing quickly. I like this sweep of liquidity. The bodies are still staying below. Really what we're looking at is, do the bodies stay below that? Order block, 30-second, price runs into that order block, respects the consequent encroachment, and pushes higher. Yeah, that would be nice, because if ES does close with that 15-minute candle, creating that order block, that would indicate some, maybe a price run lower. But so far, as far as my analysis on what I wanted all-time highs to be ran again. I wanted it to be a sweep, and now I want to look for, I want to see if it wants to give me a push lower. That's really what I'm looking for. I think there's an opportunity there, but we have the low resistance liquidity sitting all over here. If we get displacement on this candle, I wouldn't be opposed to taking a quick short, just a scalp trade to this low. For some of you that may be on here, I'm more of a scalp trader than I am anything else. So no trade. Still, bodies are respecting that midpoint. All right, so look what happened. It ran without us. It did not close before it ran the swing low, so that's a little disappointing there. Okay, next thing that I'm interested in is something like that. If it's going to give us that tag of 930 right there. I think something like this would be nice. If it can give it to us, you could potentially make that your entry as well. It'd be a larger stop loss. Sometimes evals take a while, I've noticed there's a institutional order flow entry drill. I want to see it if it wants to push higher. It's just a little too low. It could just drop from right there though, because see how it tagged this candle here. I want to see a little bit higher push personally. It might not give it to us. If I had a preference right now, I would want to see this candle be aggressive to try to fake out everybody. Make everybody think it's going long. I don't want it to see it creep up to my level. I like the aggressive pushes because that scares people the most, including myself. But it's those aggressive moves just like this. All right, I think I'm going to take that right there. I'm going to see if that wants to give us an opportunity. We'll let this play out. Oh, that is not working here. There it is. If this pushes through and closes above this, and if it closes above this fair value gap, then I'm going to close the trade, and I'll take that as a loss. But this is the clearest opportunity that I've seen. And we are seeing ES displace lower. If you want to, there's ES right there. I'm not liking that. I don't want to see this close. If it closes, that honestly would be a great trade for a move higher, but I'm not a fan of it. All right, we closed that. Run your fib on the high at 913. To the low at 939. When I do that, I see that one standard deviation comes up at the new day opening gap, the 50% level. What is 50%? 0.5, roughly there. Well, that sucked. Nice inversion right here. If I wasn't going short and I was going long, this would have been a great trade right here. Running to these highs. There's a good chance it runs those highs. Sorry, I'm on the wrong screen here. If I wasn't going short right here, I would have, this inversion right here would have been a nice trade long. Targeting those highs. Still looking to see if price wants to run these highs. We're outside of the macro time, so probably wait another 20 minutes before we look to see if price wants to actually do something. But I mean, look at how we manipulated lower, we ran higher, and then now we're just consolidating. Yeah, I understand it's just 3 candles, but typically I like to see it either retrace immediately to the fair value gap and then start moving higher, or run and grab the level altogether. Where are you located, Hank? What part of the country? Equal high. We might see if it runs higher. It's probably going to go without me. The only opportunity I saw for a move higher was from this inversion fair value gap right here on this manipulation leg lower. But obviously I was looking for a trade going the opposite direction. That's where I would be. I'm in Nebraska. They consider my state a flyover state. There's a lot of good here, though. There's a lot of good here. Great family values. I guess you could consider us part of the Bible Belt, probably. They're saying there tends to be a church on every corner. I'm exaggerating, of course. But in our capitals, in the capital, Lincoln, I'm in Omaha, Nebraska. But in the capital of Lincoln, there literally is a church on every corner. Just how price is moving right here, methodical. Just not methodical. It has no luster. It's lackluster type price action, except for 5 minutes of price action, and then it's lackluster. Just what we mentioned before with it potentially being a high resistance liquidity type of day. Grew up on a farm. Yeah, my family owns farmland. It's really, I'm grateful for it. Growing up, we lived in the city, but my dad's family all farmers, so we'd be out on the farm every weekend, every day during the summertime. Yeah, this is stuff I was thinking, what am I going to tell everybody here? This is something you don't want to trade. I took the chance right here because we had this large displacing candle here. And it had a fair value gap here. And we hit highs. And we failed to displace higher. I don't feel bad for taking this trade. I think it was a good trade. The only thing I could think of is I could probably had a slightly tighter stop loss. That'd be probably the only, when I look back at my trade and how I managed it, is I could have took a slightly tighter stop loss. But I wanted to give it room because, it had the ingredients for everything that I wanted. We had the low resistance liquidity. We had to displace lower. What did the 5 minute look like? $5.15. So this was the 515 candle right here. This is interesting. Looking at the 1 minute time frame, this looks beautiful, but then you look at the 5 minute time frame, and the 5 minute, this is the beginning of the 5 minute candle. I'm kind of taking a lesson on myself right now. I'm learning something as I'm talking this out. You guys just get the benefit of hearing it. This candle right here is 10:15. That's this candle right here. Okay? So this candle right here opened and immediately dropped. On the 5 minute candle, it immediately dropped. On a 5 minute time frame, this would be considered manipulation. If going back and look at this, I would have loved to see it drop on the 14 minute candle. At 10:14, close here, and then on that next 5 minute candle, initially push higher into this order block. Or into this breaker. so that the manipulation on the 5-minute candle would have been first higher. Because what am I talking about? I'm talking about AMD. I'm talking about the power of 3, where you first get accumulation, manipulation, and the distribution. In this case, we had accumulation, manipulation lower, and then it distributed higher within that 5-minute candle. So the close of this 5-minute here and the immediate drop, looking at the 5-minute a little closer, probably would have gave me more of an indication of being careful that this could be a fake out, because the initial move on that 5-minute candle was lower, not higher. And I typically would want to see the 5-minute candle move higher and then follow through with a move lower. Because if this 5-minute candle, we had this candle wick up into the all-time highs, and if it closed bearish, that would have been more attractive. Just talking through what I could have done differently here. But you're not going to win anything if you don't take a shot. So breaker. Here's ES right now. ES closes, it still got 10 minutes left. But that close of a candle, large displacement, basically disappeared. That tells me here's a order block right here on the 15-minute candle too. So I marked out the standard deviation from the first 30 minutes of price action, the high and low. And this is kind of where everything's sitting. We got the low sitting right below all-time highs and London lows. So I do like, if I had a preference, I do like price going lower. I just don't know when it's going to want to do that. It could be in the PM session today. Sandra, that is true. He called it. Close your eyes, hit the buy button, walk away. Just don't look at the manipulations lower, and then you'll be just fine. Oh, I bet it does. There's the monthly. That's just insane, man. Oh, you're talking about using NQ? You know, how many people have said, there's no way it can go higher. There's no way it can go higher. And just get destroyed thinking that it can't go higher. This is why it's like when you're at all-time highs, even the short that I took, you're betting against that it hit the top and it wants to go lower. So I'm betting even on the trade that I took, I'm betting that we hit our highs, you know? How many people thought the same thing throughout the years looking at this? Let's see, where's gold? I'm liking what I'm seeing with gold. I think we could see more displacement lower. That's kind of what my goal is. I would like to see price for gold run down here. I guess it all depends on this candle or this fair value gap right here. Bodies are staying in discount. Another breaker. Kane, what are you talking about? Good morning, LJ. If I'm looking at a breaker, okay. The most obvious breaker would be on the 5-minute, a low, high, lower, low. Basically finding somewhere around here. You could see price, see if it wants to find support there. That would be an opportunity if it wants to continue higher. Look at, we just marked, man, this is just incredible. We just marked the first 30 minutes of price action, and we went one standard deviation. I put, if you can see there closely, I put one standard deviation and 0.95. So I give some leeway. I like to see it hit somewhere in this range between 0.95 and 1. And this came up into the 0.95 level, and then it displaced lower. So, I mean, when we talk about algorithmic price action, for those of you that may not think this is algorithmic, why does it decide to drop right here? If it wasn't for specific levels that it is pre-programmed to run towards and then displace from. It doesn't mean, and I've said this over and over, it can't go higher, but it's the reactions at levels that I'm looking at. The only obvious thing right now is if I would take something, it would be this level right here. Running and closing beneath it to run this low resistance liquidity. That would be right now the only thing I'm interested in. What's up, Peter? But other than that, we're going to sit on our hands. Doing well. We had one loss. We took a breaker right here. We had this high, low, higher high. We swept liquidity and had this displacement lower. So I went short on the 10-18 candle. And instead of dropping, it went right through it. So it was a quick stop out. You bet, Peter. I appreciate the nice smooth slide into that comment. The breaker I was talking about was on the 32nd at the top, created the fair value gap, though it didn't continue. Oh, right here. So got it. So the low, high, lower, low. No. Oh, I see what you're saying. So regular trading hours VWAP. Here's the thing, Peter. I don't use VWAP. I don't use VWAP. Main reason I don't is because I learned my trading through ICT, and we use liquidity. Good morning, Patrick. MMs. Sorry, I don't know what MMs is. I do use market makers as far as structure. But on the trade that I took here, when I was looking for it lower, I was looking at this low resistance liquidity here and the sweep of liquidity to the upside. So maybe it did bounce. It did also bounce at 930. I was looking at that and I noted that it bounced at 930. But this was the shot I was willing to take. A Woomy. AD Woomy. You need a signal. I'm sorry, this might be the wrong place. When there's a trade setup that I like, that I'm confident in, I've already given one, and that would be this one right here. I said if we close below this, I'd be interested in it running to this swing low. But, I mean, I'm just not going to say, oh, go long, go short. That's just not what this channel is about. This channel is about education and learning to read price action instead of trying to get a call out from somebody on. My goal is to teach people to do this themselves. And I'm not saying, Peter, that VWAP doesn't work. I know traders that I've watched on YouTube, other traders that use VWAP, and it works great for them. I just have chosen to use ICT's concepts, and I don't want to try to take one concept with another and kind of merge it. I think that's where people do that all the time, but I don't use it. So I don't think there's anything wrong for anybody that using it by any means. No, it's not a concept. It's an indicator. It's an indicator for sure. All right, let's see what kind of displacement this gives us. So we hit the consequent encroachment of this, which overlaps with this high, and the body closed outside of this. So at this point, I would consider this still bullish price action, but that could change at any moment. I'm looking for price to close below this inversion fair value gap, and if it closes below it, I would be looking for price to run in and through these levels here and probably find support somewhere around here. If it doesn't want to push through those levels either. We are also in a macro time, so this is where we probably could see price expand and move lower. I like this tap into this fair value gap. Five-minute closed bearish. Close below these two wicky green candles here. We'll see if it wants to continue. Okay, I'm front running this a little bit. I am in a short right now with the anticipation that we are going to close below this. I did get in this fair value gap when I said I like that. I'll jump over to that screen here in a second, but wanted to see if that plays out at all. I like these relatively equal lows. I want to see it push through it. Now, if we push through these levels here and then close above this, I don't like it as much. I want to see it displace lower right here. 3 relatively equal lows on the consequent encroachment. I'll close this here if we close above this. That is an inversion fair value gap to the upside. So technically, not technically speaking, but the reason why I did this is that this high hit 1 standard deviation from our opening 30 minutes. We also have a high, low, higher high, a small little breaker that price wicked up into and closed below. And that's kind of the concept that I was looking at. And we are also in the macro time of 10:54 or 10:45, between 10:45 and 11. So we want to see if this wants to now displace lower. If we can close below this fair value gap here, I would consider moving my stop to break even just to protect my position. We also have a 5-minute fair value gap. I would like to see it close below. That's probably not going to happen in the next 7 seconds. What's a 15-minute look like? I'm not liking how it's sitting in here so long. Patrick, it's tough. The answer is you have to reduce your size small enough to where it doesn't hurt you as much. The problem is we want big wins, but we don't want to deal with any types of losses. So we basically pull ourselves out of trades that end up working because we oversize. So we love the idea of winning big, but the truth is that it's manipulating your feelings enough to where it's not allowing you to let the trade breathe and play out. Okay? So where do you start? You start on demo where there's zero emotion so you can see it work over and over again. Then you go to eval, and then you get to the point where evals don't affect you as much. Then you move to performance accounts, or then you move to your live account. But you have to do that over time. Low resistance right here. I really want to see this displace because I really haven't hit my minimum target. My minimum target is 40 ticks. Minimum target 100 is 40 ticks. If I'm not getting 40 ticks, then it's not a trade worth closing. And if I need to let my analysis play out at least long enough to get 40 ticks or to stop me out. And right now, the stop out is going to be a close above this inversion fair value gap right there. But I'm not liking how it's finding support in this top, in the premium portion at all. So it's not disrespecting any of my rules. It's just order flow right now is not showing me that it wants to go lower. Do you see what I mean? So you could take that analysis and say, oh, I'm going to get out now. Or you could just follow your rules that you place before you get into a trade. And then if it violates that, then you close the trade. Yeah, let's see if ES closes above that inversion fair value gap as well. It looks like it probably is. So we'll close that. I'm disappointed that it didn't displace lower. All right, folks, that's 2. I think I'm not going to take another trade today. We're not going to take another trade today. If I'm having 2 losses based on what I'm seeing with, I think, decent analysis, then I'm either missing it, I'm missing it completely. So I don't want to keep missing it and burn a bigger hole. Now we're potentially creating low resistance liquidity right there. It's one of the hardest ones, Hank. It's one of the hardest ones to learn, but it is one that a trader has to learn if they're going to become profitable. Yeah, I mean, I'm not green Tony either. I took a losing trade. That's 2 losses, so you call it a day. There'll be better days. I mean, the trade of the day was that one right there that we called out. You know, probably subconsciously, I have a hard time sitting down and seeing a trade show up within like the first 3 minutes. That happens all the time. But because I build up such over the course of 2 years before I started following my rules, I would sit down and say, oh, there's a trade, and I would get in and I would get burned. I'd get in, I'd get burned. I'd sit down, get in, get burned over and over. That now when I sit down and I see something like this, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't take it. Maybe I shouldn't take it. And then it works out. So it's kind of one of those bittersweet one where I've learned not to take a trade right away. But then when you see it play out, it's just like, ugh, that was a nice move. And it was everything that I wanted. But I didn't take it. But price action has been brutal this morning. Yeah, exactly, Hank. Everything that I've been calling out has been wrong since market open. That's a sign. It's a sign from the Lord. Some of your stops didn't execute. LJ, that's a smart move. And here's the hardest thing to try to teach traders, and even something that I have to continually remind myself. A loss does not mean you're a bad trader. Now, what would constitute a bad trader, which I've done many, many times, is knowing that you should stop but keep trading. Knowing that you should stop and you keep trading. That's that is, for those of you listening, if that's you, that is the ingredients of poor trading skills. Now, we're going to make mistakes and do those things, but it can't become your identity. If you have done that, you literally need to say, okay, just as believers, when we give our lives to Christ, the Bible says we've become a new creation in Christ. So if we're a new creation, the old ways have passed away. So as a trader and you becoming a profitable trader, when you make mistakes, you cannot own those mistakes in the sense that that's who you are. You can't say I'm a bad trader. You can't say, oh, this is who I am. I can never figure this out. You have to, at the same way we as Christians view our salvation, we have to view that in trading. Trading, okay, I made a mistake. That's not who I am. I made 10 trades I shouldn't have taken. That's not who I am. I can't identify myself in that light. I repent. I get my head on straight, and I correct my behavior. I turn around, repent. If you want Christianese, I repent, turn around, and I move the other direction. That is how you get back on track. There's so many things in my just Christian walk that I've learned through the process of trading, man, and continue to learn. Just because I'm saying this to you now doesn't mean I have it completely figured out. I still have to deal with my own emotions. I still have to deal with 2 losses myself. I have to deal with that. But I have the ingredients on how to deal with it, and now it's just my job to execute it. Not to let it affect who I am as a trader or who I am as a person, but say, okay, I know I wasn't supposed to do that. Let's set this aside. Father, forgive me, because I know I'm supposed to be a good steward of the resources you've given me, right? We're supposed to be a good steward of those resources. Repent, ask for forgiveness, turn the other direction, and we try again, right? I don't view that as failure. Failure to me is walking away. And I'm just not going to do that. I'm not even where I want to be yet. I'm not to the point in my trading journey where my trading is providing completely for my family. I've met my goal of being able to pay for my mortgage every month and a few other bills, but slowly and surely I'll increase that. But it takes time. It just does. When I was on my journey, I found that even on my worst trading days, it was a very small mistake that I made that caused it. That gave me confidence I could overcome the situation every single time. And I'm sure journaling and being able to identify what those were helped. A lot of time, we don't like looking at our missed trades. So when I sit here and I analyze my trades on screen, I'm doing this for me because it humbles me to be able to do this in front of other people. But I think it empowers other people to know that, hey, you can figure this out too. This looks, it's probably just going to keep going higher. Either way, folks, I think we're going to call it a day here. So tomorrow I'll be on. I'll only be on for probably an hour tomorrow. We're going to be heading to Texas tomorrow for a conference. There is my wife is a part of a ministry that travels around, and they're going to Texas, so she wants to be a part of the conference that's going on there. And so we're going to head down there tomorrow, but I'm going to trade first for a little bit, and then we'll leave in the afternoon or leave late morning. So I may or may not be on Friday, but for those that are a part of the Discord, if you would like to do a live stream, I will have I'll have my brother actually. He said he's willing to hold the live stream on the Discord if you want to be a part of that. So I highly recommend the book Failing Forward by John Maxwell for having the proper mindset on making mistakes. You know what? I haven't read that book, Hank. I might check that out. I like John Maxwell. I like him a lot. So, all right, folks, we're going to call it a day here. Thanks for joining. Hank, thanks for popping in. If you have any questions, put them in the comments of any of these videos. I'm happy to answer them. I try to answer everything. So thanks for being here. God bless you all. Stay safe. Stay safe trading, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.